What if I told you that some of the greatest inventions in human history were never actually planned? They were not created after years of perfect calculations. They were not always the result of a genius idea. Some appeared because a scientist forgot to clean a dish. A chef became annoyed with a customer. A child left a drink outside overnight. And a small mistake became something that changed the world forever. Behind every invention is a story. And some of the most fascinating stories are the ones that were never supposed to happen. Today, we are traveling through history to discover 15 accidental inventions that changed the way humans live. From life-saving medicines to everyday objects sitting in your home right now. And our first story begins with something so small that it was almost thrown away. A tiny piece of mold. Inside St. Mary's Hospital in London, England, a Scottish scientist named Alexander Fleming was studying bacteria. At that time, bacterial infections were extremely dangerous. A small wound could become deadly. Doctors had limited ways to fight these invisible enemies. Fleming was searching for something that could stop harmful bacteria. But one day, an unexpected accident happened. Before leaving his laboratory for a holiday, Fleming accidentally left some of his laboratory dishes behind. When he returned, he noticed something unusual. One of the dishes had become contaminated with a strange green mold. Most scientists would have simply thrown away the spoiled experiment. But Fleming looked closer. He noticed something strange around the mold. The bacteria near it had disappeared. The mold was producing a substance that killed the bacteria. This discovery became known as penicillin. At first, many people did not understand how important this discovery was. But later, scientists developed penicillin into a powerful medicine. During World War II, penicillin helped treat infected wounds and save the lives of countless soldiers. Diseases that once killed thousands could now be treated. A forgotten laboratory dish had accidentally created one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history. But imagine this. What if Fleming had cleaned that dish one day earlier? The world might have waited much longer for antibiotics. And our next invention happened because someone was not happy with their dinner. The year was 1853. In Saratoga Springs, New York, a chef named George Crumb was working at a restaurant. One day, a customer ordered fried potatoes. But after receiving them, the customer complained. The potatoes were too thick. They were not crispy enough. The customer wanted something thinner and crunchier. The chef was frustrated. Instead of making normal fried potatoes again, George Crumb decided to make them impossible to complain about. He expected the customer to dislike them. But the opposite happened. The customer loved them. Soon, other customers wanted to try these thin, crunchy potatoes. The accidental creation became incredibly popular. Those crispy slices eventually became known around the world as potato chips. A simple complaint from one customer accidentally created one of the world's favorite snacks. But our next invention was discovered in a completely different place. Inside a laboratory. And it started with something melting in someone's pocket. In 1945, engineer Percy Spencer was working at the American company Raytheon. He was researching radar technology. During one experiment, Percy noticed something strange. The chocolate bar in his pocket had melted. At first, it seemed like a random accident. But Percy was curious. He wondered, could the energy from this machine be causing the chocolate to melt? Instead of ignoring the mystery, he decided to test it. He placed popcorn kernels near the equipment. Suddenly, the kernels started popping. He tried more experiments and discovered that this invisible energy could heat food quickly. This discovery eventually led to the invention of the microwave oven. But the first microwave ovens were nothing like the ones we know today. They were huge. They were expensive. And they were mostly used in restaurants. Over time, technology improved. The machines became smaller and affordable. Today, millions of kitchens around the world have microwaves. And it all started because a scientist noticed a melted chocolate bar. Sometimes, the biggest discoveries begin with simply paying attention. Sometimes, failure is not the end of an invention. Sometimes, failure is the beginning. In 1968, scientists at the company 3M were trying to create a powerful adhesive. They wanted a glue that could hold objects together strongly. One scientist named Spencer Silver was working on the project. But his experiment did not go as planned. Instead of creating a super strong glue, he created a weak adhesive. It could stick to surfaces, but it could also be removed easily. At first, it seemed useless. A weak glue did not sound like a successful invention. The discovery was placed aside. Years later, another 3M scientist named Art Fry had a problem. He sang in a church choir. The small paper bookmarks he used kept falling out of his songbook. Then he remembered Spencer Silver's unusual glue. What if a small piece of paper could stick temporarily and be removed whenever needed? That idea became reality. In 1980, 3M introduced Post-it notes. Today, these small yellow notes are used in offices, schools, and homes around the world. A glue that was considered a failure became one of the most useful inventions of modern life. But the next invention was inspired by something humans had been ignoring for thousands of years: nature. In 1941, Swiss engineer Georges de Mestral went for a walk with his dog. When he returned home, he noticed something annoying. Small burrs from plants were stuck to his clothes and his dog's fur. Most people would remove them and forget about them. But George became curious. He looked at the burrs under a microscope. What he saw was amazing. The tiny seeds had hundreds of small hooks. Those hooks grabbed onto fabric and hair. George wondered, could humans create something using the same idea? After years of experimenting, he created a material with tiny hooks and loops. He called it Velcro. The invention became useful in shoes, clothing, bags, medical equipment, and many other products. Even astronauts used Velcro during space missions to stop objects from floating away. A small plant burr from an ordinary walk had inspired a technology used around the planet. And our next invention started with another forgotten accident: a drink left outside on a cold night. The year was 1905. In Oakland, California, an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson was experimenting with making his own flavored drink. He mixed water, flavored powder, and a wooden stirring stick. But that night, something unexpected happened. Frank accidentally left the mixture outside. The temperature dropped during the night, and the drink froze completely. The next morning, he discovered something surprising. The frozen drink was stuck to the wooden stick. Instead of becoming a forgotten mistake, it became a fun frozen treat. Years later, Frank remembered his childhood experiment and developed the idea into a product. The invention became known as the popsicle. A simple forgotten drink on a cold night became one of the world's most famous frozen snacks. But our next invention was not sweet. It was extremely powerful. And it happened because scientists created something that was almost too sticky to handle. In 1942, during World War II, scientist Harry Coover was working on creating clear plastic materials. His team was searching for materials that could be used for optical equipment. During one experiment, Harry discovered a strange chemical substance. It had one major problem. It stuck to everything. The material was so sticky that it made experiments difficult. At first, scientists thought it was useless. The discovery was forgotten. But years later, Harry looked at the material again. This time, he saw the problem differently. The thing that made it difficult was also what made it special. The substance could bond objects together almost instantly. This discovery became known as superglue. Today, strong adhesives based on this discovery are used for repairs, manufacturing, and many different industries. A chemical mistake had accidentally created one of the world's most famous glues. And the next invention began with something falling from a shelf. In 1943, engineer Richard James was working on springs designed for equipment. One day, while testing his designs, something unexpected happened. A spring accidentally fell from a shelf. But instead of simply landing on the ground, it moved. The spring seemed to walk forward step by step. Richard was fascinated. He realized this strange movement could become something entertaining. Together with his wife, Betty James, he transformed the spring into a toy. That toy became the Slinky. Children loved watching it move downstairs, almost as if it had a life of its own. A piece of engineering equipment accidentally became one of the most famous toys in history. But our next invention came from an accident involving something much more fragile: glass. In 1903, French scientist Edouard Benedictus was working in his laboratory. During one experiment, a glass flask accidentally fell to the floor. Normally, glass would break into dangerous sharp pieces. But this time, something strange happened. The glass cracked, but it stayed together. Benedictus investigated and discovered that a thin layer of material inside the glass was holding the pieces together. This discovery led to the creation of laminated safety glass. The invention changed the future of transportation. Car windshields became safer. Instead of breaking into dangerous pieces during accidents, the glass could stay together. Today, safety glass is used in cars, buildings, and many other important places. A broken flask had accidentally revealed a safer future, and the next invention allowed humans to see something that had always been hidden inside the human body. In 1895, German physicist Wilhelm Röntgen was experimenting with electrical tubes in his laboratory. He was studying mysterious rays that nobody fully understood. During one experiment, he noticed something unusual. A screen nearby began glowing even though it was not directly exposed to light. Something invisible was passing through objects. Röntgen tested the strange rays. He placed his hand in front of them, and he saw something incredible. The image revealed the bones inside his hand. He had discovered a new type of radiation. He called them X-rays. Doctors quickly realized how valuable this discovery could be. For the first time, they could look inside the human body without surgery. Broken bones could be found. Medical problems could be studied. A strange glow in a laboratory had transformed medicine forever. But our next invention came from a kitchen and created one of the world's favorite desserts. In 1938, at the Toll House in Massachusetts, Chef Ruth Graves Wakefield was making cookies. She wanted to create something new. She added pieces of chocolate into the cookie dough. Ruth expected the chocolate pieces to melt completely and mix into the cookie. But something unexpected happened. The chocolate pieces stayed solid. Instead of ruining the recipe, they created something delicious. The first chocolate chip cookies were born. People loved them. The recipe became famous. And today, chocolate chip cookies are enjoyed around the world. A small baking experiment had accidentally created a classic treat. But our next invention was much more serious. It came from an electronic mistake and helped save millions of lives. In the 1950s, engineer Wilson Graybatch was working on a device that could record heart sounds. During one experiment, he accidentally used the wrong electronic component. The device started producing regular electrical pulses. Those pulses looked surprisingly similar to the rhythm of a heartbeat. Wilson realized he had discovered something important. The idea could help control abnormal heart rhythms. This discovery helped inspire the development of the modern implantable pacemaker. Today, pacemakers help millions of people around the world. A simple mistake while building an electronic circuit helped create a life-saving medical device. But our next invention began with something disappearing inside a container. In 1938, scientist Roy Plunkett was researching new gases for refrigeration. During an experiment, he opened a container expecting to find gas inside. But the gas was gone. Instead, he found a strange white powder. At first, it seemed like a failed experiment. But when scientists studied the material, they discovered something amazing. It was extremely slippery. It could resist heat and chemicals. This material became known as Teflon. Years later, it became famous as the non-stick coating used in cooking pans. A strange leftover material from a failed experiment changed kitchens around the world. And our next invention started with something completely different. A cleaning product. Before it became a famous children's toy, Play-Doh had another purpose. In the 1930s, a soft material was created as a wallpaper cleaner. People used it to remove marks from walls. But as homes changed and new heating systems became common, wallpaper cleaner became less necessary. The product was losing its purpose. Then something unexpected happened. Teachers discovered that children loved playing with the soft material. They could shape it into anything they imagined. Animals, objects, creative designs. The old cleaning product became Play-Doh, one of the world's most famous creative toys. A product that was almost forgotten found a completely new life. And finally, our last invention began with a cooking accident. In the late 1890s, brothers John Harvey Kellogg and Will Keith Kellogg were experimenting with food at the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan. They were trying to create new types of healthy foods. During one experiment, cooked grain was accidentally left sitting for too long. When they rolled it out, something unexpected happened. The grain turned into thin, crispy flakes. Instead of throwing it away, they tasted it. The result became the inspiration for corn flakes and modern breakfast cereals. A simple kitchen accident changed breakfast tables around the world. From a forgotten laboratory dish, to a melted chocolate bar, from a plant burr, to a frozen drink left outside. Accidents have created some of the most important inventions in human history. These stories teach us something powerful. A mistake is not always the end. Sometimes, it is the beginning of something completely unexpected. The difference between failure and discovery is often one thing. Someone who is curious enough to look closer. Because sometimes, the greatest inventions are found when nobody was actually looking for them.